Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to Curiosity Corner Live. As always, give people a few more moments to arrive. Good morning, Anthony. Good morning, Vera. Good morning, Alyssa. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back, Momgineering the Future. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me today on Curiosity Corner Live. And before we get started, first I want to give a shout out to Momgineering the Future because they shared a traffic light yesterday. Really cool traffic light based on what we did yesterday. So that was really cool to see. So thank you very much for sharing that. That was awesome. And before we get started, just want to reiterate that events in Cleveland and around the country remind us that we all need to be present in our community. As a STEM-based education leader in Northeastern Ohio, we want to make sure the Science Center stays true to our vision for a community that uses STEM to inform decision-making and enrich lives. Our Curiosity Corner Live programming this week is shifting to reflect a more inclusive look at some STEM innovators, both from Northeastern Ohio and beyond, who personify the tenacious spirit and drive for understanding that science can inspire anyone, regardless of gender, ethnicity, or religious background. With that in mind, today we're talking about astronaut Guy Bluford and spacecraft in general. So we'll talk about Guy Bluford, and I'll show you how you can make your own little mini spaceship. So first things first, I'll show you Guy Bluford. Here he is. He went into space in 1983. He was the first African American in space. He went on the Space Shuttle in 1983, and then he went again 1985, 1991, 1992. So he went into space 4 times. He lives in Cleveland, too. So that's an amazing connection. We have Guy Bluford in Cleveland, which is absolutely amazing. He visited the Science Center a while back, which was a great experience. So Guy Bluford, first African American in space. Now, he was on the space shuttle, so I'm going to make my own mini space shuttle. I have a straw here, and there's a couple ways that you can make a little space shuttle or a spaceship. One way, and we've all done this, we're out to eat. You take the straw wrapper, and then you have half of it or so, and then you can blow some air in there. There you go. That's like a little spaceship. But you can make your own. You can customize it. You don't need to use the wrapper. You can make your own and make it a little more stable. So I'm going to put that over here for now. And I have some paper, some construction paper. I'm going to cut just a little bit of it. Of course, always be careful with scissors. And I'm going to cut a little piece of this that's about maybe an inch wide by maybe 3 or 4 inches. So there's the first part of my little spaceship. Oh, Vera. Vera thinks it's cool. Thank you, Vera. This will wrap really nicely around my straw. But here's the thing about spaceships, especially the space shuttle. The space shuttle had a little point at the top. So it looked like a plane. I'm actually going to grab a picture of the space shuttle while we're discussing. All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that one works. So, right here, we'll go over to that picture of the space shuttle. One Momo. Momo is short for moment. There we go. So, this is a space shuttle Endeavour. And you can see it's shaped like a plane. So we need to make sure that our little mini space shuttle is shaped like a plane. So the way that you can do that, and I'll switch back to just me, whoop, so you can see what I'm doing. I have a pen here, and the pen has a little point at the top. So I'm going to take my piece of paper, and I'm going to wrap it around the pen. First things first, I'm going to wrap it around the pen. And then I'm going to, be careful not to tear it. There we go. And then I'm going to tape it in place. Just a little bit of tape. We're going to wrap that around the pen. You can use a pencil. You can use a crayon. Anything that has a little point at the top. Oh, you saw Atlantis when you went to the Kennedy Space Center. That is amazing. Yeah, there were 6 if you count Enterprise. There were 5 space shuttles. Enterprise was a testing space shuttle. It never went into space. But there was Enterprise, which was sort of for testing. And then there was Columbia, there was Challenger, there was Endeavour, Discovery, Atlantis. Atlantis was in 2011, Atlantis was the last one to land, and it called the end of the space shuttle program in 2011. So the program lasted a pretty long time. It lasted from the early 80s through 2011. So I've made a little rough cylinder. I'm going to put that on my pen and use the point to sort of wrap it into a point right there. So I'm using the pen as a mold. So I'm kind of squishing that point up at the top, and I'm going to use a little more tape to make sure. I'm going to use a little more tape to secure that. We want to make sure that is mostly airtight. Whoops. Well, I don't need the pen anymore anyway. Want to make sure it's a little airtight so that there we go. So there's the body of our spaceship, but we need fins. So I have another piece of paper here, and I'm just going to cut the corners, a couple corners off of this piece of paper. And the space shuttle had 2 fins. It actually had 3 now that I think about it. It had 2 big wings and 1 big fin in the back. So I'm going to have 3 fins on here, and I'm going to make one a little smaller than the other so it's like the space shuttle. So then I'm going to take these fins here, and I'm going to tape them to the body of my spaceship. There we go. And get a piece of tape on there. I'm putting the piece of tape on the fins first. That way I don't lose track of them. And then I'll just tape that right on there. There we go. So we have 2 nice little fins. And then I'm going to put the third one on with a tiny piece of tape. Little tiny piece of tape. Oop, it's a little off center. Let's see if we can get it to center itself. There we go. Get another little piece of tape here. Put that on there. There we go. So that's our little paper space shuttle. And I used a pen because the pen is a little bigger than the straw. If I mold it around the pen, then I know it'll fit on the straw. So this will provide the thrust for our little space shuttle, because everything needs thrust in order to get into space. You need a nice force, and we'll see what happens here. I'm going to try to blow some air into this, and if I designed it correctly, it should launch. Hey, that went pretty well. Yeah. It went, I mean, it ran into a chair, but it went a pretty good distance. So there's your, I'm going to retrieve it. Here we go. So that's how, yeah, space shuttles have to return. They were designed to be reusable spacecraft. So there's our little space shuttle. That's how you can make your own. And before we go, I wanted to show you a few pictures. So Guy Bluford went into space on the space shuttle, but the space shuttle wasn't the first spacecraft that we made. We made a few more, and of course one was the Saturn V, which gave us this picture. When we went into space for Apollo 17, we took this picture, and by we I mean the astronauts of Apollo 17. This is called the blue marble, and you can see here what Earth looks like from space. And then when they got to the moon, this is Earthrise. It was taken in 1968 by Apollo 8. When you're on the moon, you can't even make out the continents of the Earth. So that's Earthrise, 1968. And then if you go even further out, this was taken by Curiosity, the rover Curiosity. This is Mars, the surface of Mars. I showed you this picture when I talked about Mars rovers. And that little tiny dot is Earth. This was taken in 2014. And then if you go even further out, this one was taken in 1990. This is an image called Pale Blue Dot. It was taken by a spacecraft called Voyager 1 when it went past Saturn. It was February 14th, 1990 that this picture was taken. And that tiny, tiny little blue dot, that's Earth. And this picture, I think, is really important. All those pictures of Earth are really important because they show us that Earth is this tiny, tiny, tiny little mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. That's what Carl Sagan said. Carl Sagan was a scientist who he was a big supporter of making sure that everyone was sort of unified. In 2013, spacecraft Cassini went back to Saturn, and it took its own version of the pale blue dot. So that little light there, that's Earth. And Carl Sagan wrote some words about this picture, about the image of the pale blue dot. So I wanted to read some of those while we were looking at this picture of our tiny world. So here's what Carl Sagan said. He says, "Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. And he also says later in his book, our remote descendants, safely arrayed on many worlds throughout the solar system and beyond, will be unified by their common heritage, by their regard for their home planet, and by the knowledge that whatever other life may be, the only humans in all the universe come from Earth. They will gaze up and strain to find the blue dot in their skies. They will love it no less for its obscurity and fragility. They will marvel at how vulnerable the repository of all our potential once was, how perilous our infancy, how humble our beginnings, how many rivers we had to cross before we found our way. So I wanted to close out this stream using words from Carl Sagan, especially in this time with all this scary stuff happening. I think it's important to remember that we're all together and that we're all people and we're all from Earth. So thank you very much for joining me for Curiosity Corner Live. Tomorrow we're going to talk about scale models. We're going to have a new face on Curiosity Corner Live from our exhibits department. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and make sure you come back tomorrow, and make sure you share your little paper space shuttles on social media. And I can't wait to see what you come up with. So thank you very much. And as always, my name's Andy. Bow ties are cool. And stay curious.